Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to the Motor Stardom Show. It was a fantastic weekend of racing, action-packed, already week 3 of the year, and we got 2 different locations for different NASCAR races, and a bunch if you count ARCA West and all that hoopla over there. But we had Circuit of the Americas for the Cup Series and the O'Reilly Series, and the Truck Series for the first time was in St. Petersburg. So without further ado, let's bring in a few gentlemen who got to be there with me for that weekend. First, we're going to bring in our guest co-host for this episode, Dalton Hopkins with the Frontstretch. How are you doing, my friend? Oh, I can't hear you, Dalton.
That's because I muted myself.
Oh.
We all knew this day would come one day. And it is a glorious day. I appreciate you for having me on, RJ. It was a very interesting weekend in St. Pete, and man, I'm ready to talk about it because we had some stuff to talk about.
We do. It was a wild weekend, and there was also a guy who was there with us, not really doing anything in specific besides watching cars go vroom, and that's Mason Maggio. Resident of Florida, made the trip over to St. Pete. I said, come check it out. He did, had the week off from driving, but back in the saddle this weekend. Mason, how are you doing?
I'd be doing better if my AirPods connected to my phone. See, I miss the computer setup right now because it's technical difficulties all the way around. But besides that, I'm doing great. Happy to be back on the show for another great episode. We got a lot of cool stuff going for this week, obviously with having Dalton on the show as our co-host, as well as a lot of great guests. And then excited to be back behind the wheel of the number 91 Chevy this weekend at Phoenix. So, and we'll have some news coming out with that, I think, tomorrow. So we'll stay tuned for that. But looking forward to having some fun here tonight on the Motor Stardom Show.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So it was great that we all got to spend the weekend in St. Pete together. Crazy visual. Obviously, I know Dalton and I have been to that race before, covered the IndyCar race there, but there was something special about our humble abode, NASCAR, being there for the weekend. I thought just visuals like this were pretty cool. I'd never been to this. I know this is where MX5 and where Indy Next or NXT, whatever you call it, is, but I'd never been to this side because I just, quite frankly, never made the venture over there. But I thought this was pretty sick. I mean, we were lined up pretty much right outside of an airport. The garage area was very interesting, and I'm sure just like everything in the NASCAR world, there were some teams that loved it, and there were probably some teams that were grumpy and hated it. But Dalton, I'll ask you first as a guy that was covering the weekend alongside me. What were your first kind of thoughts when you got on the grounds of the racetrack, and what did you feel was super different from when you had been there in years past?
You know, I don't know if I really felt anything. There was a whole lot different about it. Obviously, the vibe was a little bit different with the Truck Series being there and everything. But St. Pete is kind of an interesting venue. It's a neat area. I like whenever we go to a street race, whenever there's a street race, like it's kind of cool to just, when you're done with everything, you go away from the track and you can go like enjoy the city and everything like that, and go enjoy the restaurants and the bars and everything. But in St. Pete's no exception. But the truck race itself, like the trucks being there, I think a lot of people were kind of expecting like, this is going to be madness. This is going to be really bad. I think we were in agreement there. It was going to be a very, very, the whole field, like even the IndyCar guys, they all thought that it was going to be madness. But and we'll get to that later, I'm sure. But that was not what eventually happened. And I just want to say, like, I also just like the fact that our media center is like right next to one of the long straightaways of the circuit. So you and I, RJ, we're sitting next to the window, and we're seeing, I mean, I don't know if you got photos of it, we're seeing like the cars like right in front of us go by full throttle. That was really, really cool. So the visual of it, just it makes me give it the nickname. I call it America's Monaco, just because it's next to a yacht club and everything, and it's next to this nice little harbor, and it's a very nice venue.
Yeah, I think so, 100%. I know Mason can attest to that. I do think that media center view is absolutely sick, and it was actually the location of one of Mason's most popular tweets. Ain't that right, Mason?
That is correct. Yeah, it's funny because I literally tell RJ right before I'm about to click post. I'm like, watch, this is gonna be a banger tweet for no reason, and lo and behold, I think we're at 4.5K likes or something like that, and a lot of views. So, I don't know. The algorithm's weird. I still haven't figured it out. It's good publicity, but it was just the stupidest thing. I was just saying because trucks were, I think, going to the choose cone or something like that, and they're all just stacked up outside. And I was like, RJ, look, it looks like traffic outside of St. Pete. I'm just going to post that. And lo and behold, it was very, very popular for no reason. But yeah, I've been on Twitter for 5 or 6 years, and I still haven't figured out why stupid stuff like that blows up. But the algorithm was happy with it.
It's okay. Me and Dalton have a lot of experience with algorithms in our time. It's kind of what we do. But before we bring our first guest in here, Ben, I want to ask you, Dalton, real quick. Were you surprised by the race winner in the Truck Series? I know a lot of people come and watch, and they see all these road ringers and Dario Franchitti's and James Hinchcliffe's, even just Truck Series regulars that come along. Were you surprised that it was Lane Riggs? It was the short track guy kind of getting it done, having to hold off the other short track guy, Ty Majeski?
Well, Corey Heim, he's not there in the series anymore, so he's not there to lead every single lap like he has in the past in other road course races. So I think that kind of left the door open. Everyone thought that it's clearly can't be Corey Heim, so somebody's got to take over. Someone's got to take the top spot, and I think a lot of people were saying, why not Dario? Why not James Hinchcliffe? Why not Colin Brown? And those guys actually did perform very well. But ultimately, I'm not too surprised that it was a Truck Series regular. Yes, Lane Riggs is definitely a short track guy, but he's for sure broadened his horizons in recent years. I mean, he won Pocono last year, so which is very much not a short track. So I don't think it's too surprising to see that. I think it's actually kind of a good thing to show that, for Lane Riggs at least, to show that, hey, this guy he's not just the short track guy anymore. He's become a little bit more than that. He's grown a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasure to see. And I think for a guy that hopefully soon will be moving up the ranks, Lane Riggs with Ford, as a lot of people question, who's Ford got, right? Who's Ford going to be able to move up in their pipeline? And I think it's very good that, hey, maybe Chandler Smith sticks around there for a while. He's still the points leader, right? So they got the points leader over there at front row, and they got the most recent race winner in Lane Riggs. But they both don't lock into the playoffs. I almost wanted to say that. My brain wanted to go there. Two drivers locked into the playoffs, but we can't say that anymore. But on the flip side, there's another organization that is rising in Nice Motorsports. Fantastic weekend. We had Landon Lewis, a spectacular finish. Andres Perez, spectacular finish. And in 11th place, I'll swing him in here, driving the number 4 truck. It was Ben Maier this weekend at St. Pete. My friend, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Great. We are happy to be here. It was awesome. All 4 of us were in St. Pete this weekend. One of us was driving, though, and that was you. How was that experience? First of all, just getting with Nice Motorsports, getting that deal together, and kind of the preparation that led up to not only your big start there with that organization, but an inaugural event for the series.
Yeah, it was a really fun race. I love that track. I think there was a lot of preparation that went into it. The guys worked at the shop really hard the whole for 2 weeks probably to get that truck ready, maybe even longer. And it was a really fun weekend. I did a lot of sim work on it as well on the track. No, hadn't been there before in real life, so it was new pretty much to everyone except for some simulator time. But I think it was a great weekend. We started off really strong. I was in second in practice, and then we didn't get qualifying, and that was probably one of the hardest tracks to pass at I'd ever been to because it was just so tight around there. And I've been to Long Beach and Nashville and Detroit, so that was definitely one of the hardest tracks, but it was really fun.
Yeah, how awesome was that in your brain when you were like, all right, we're second in practice, brain hits, great. Where are we starting? 35th.
Yeah, it was not. We were really good in practice. I wish we could have got to qualify, but I think just that track position was so important, that race. And I fought my way through as best I could, but it burnt my tires up a little more having to make it through. And it was just not what we hoped for in practice, but
Yeah,
in qualifying.
yeah, exactly. One last question for me, and I'll swing it to the boys here. But 11th place finish. I mean, do you feel like that exceeded your expectations, right where you kind of wanted to be at, or did you leave that race kind of wanting more?
Oh, well, my goal was like a top 10, and I think it definitely would have happened if we started a little further up and had that track position. But it wasn't my goal. Top 10 was definitely my goal, but I think it was still a pretty good finish starting from the back.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let me swing it to my right here. Dalton Hopkins, go ahead.
Yeah, Ben, we talked twice this past weekend, so good seeing you again. But and once again, congrats on a really solid finish. But you said that it was one of the hardest tracks. Is it the hardest street course you mentioned some of the street courses? Was it the hardest street course you've been on?
Here, let me reword myself. It was a fun track. It wasn't one of the hardest tracks, but it was one of the hardest tracks to pass at, get around people, because I was also lacking drive off the turn, and we kind of went over it after the race and figured some stuff out that we're gonna try. But yeah, it was definitely free off for me on the longer runs, especially. On the short runs, I was pretty good, but as the truck tires got some laps on them, I was a little slower than other people, fell off a little more. And my tires, or my rear tires, over the long run I would get freer and freer off. So I would have worse runs down the straightaway, and I couldn't get to people in one of the biggest passing zones, which is turn 1, and I would kind of have to dive in turn 4. But yeah, it was one of the hardest tracks to pass at.
Are you, when it came to like the actual practice itself, and like you and the rest of the field? I mean, you only have 2 races under your belt before this past weekend with the trucks. You and the rest of the field had never been on this street course before with a truck, and now you only get about, what was it, like 5 minutes of practice or however much it was, and then no qualifying gates canceled as well. Everything else gets rained out. What is the mental state? What's the mindset knowing that you have to start 35th the next day?
Well, I just starting in 35th. I knew that I had nothing to lose. Like, I can only go forward. So I wasn't really nervous. I wasn't nothing going into it, just because I knew there was nothing to lose and I could only go forward. But I'm sure if I was qualifying on my 3rd race, starting up front, I think it would have been probably a little more nervous.
Yeah, you look at the order here, the team. Great day for the organization. I want to pull up this picture too before I swing it to Mason here. I found this. I don't know whose exactly truck this came off. I think it was somebody on your team. Tell me about the tire wear on this racetrack, to where obviously, okay, you guys say you have simulator time, but you can only simulate so much. Do you feel like this was a surprise that the type of tire wear you guys experienced at the racetrack, or was it kind of right on where you felt it was? And what were the sensations of what you felt from all the different, obviously, the race cars that you've driven so early in your career?
I say the tire wear was pretty similar to other tracks, other street courses at least. It wasn't too much different. I feel like it definitely fell off a lot towards the end of the runs. Towards the end of that 40 lap run, it was definitely getting pretty free off, tight in the center. But I think also the free off could have came from the little tight in the center, and I would just have so much wheel in it that it would snap back on exit. But it not too much difference in tire wear than other street courses, I don't think. It was still a lot, though.
Gotcha. I'll swing it to you, Mason Maggio.
Yeah, I mean, you've you've done a lot in your career, in from road course racing. Obviously, you won the Cars Tour Championship this past year, and you've done a couple truck races so far on some road courses. And obviously you had a great showing this past weekend with Nice. Is there more stuff for you in the future with that organization? On some road courses, maybe do we see you on a couple of ovals this year? As you've got a very versatile background, and can maybe apply that to some future races as well that you got coming up.
Yeah, we're working on it. I think we're probably gonna have some races coming up with them. It's more of it's just like a money thing. We just working on finding sponsorship and stuff to race with them. I really want to race multiple races with them, and we're gonna try and get as many as we can. But yeah, it's just trying to find sponsorship right now, trying to figure it out.
Absolutely. No, I get it 100%. We a lot of our guests and people that we've had on the show understand that.
Yeah.
But from what you were able to do, with the Cars Tour stuff last year, has that been able to transfer into what you're doing with trucks? Because we've had tons of guests come on the show with versatile backgrounds, and the thing that we like to try to ask some of those guests are, what are kind of the comparisons, the contrasts to the cars, how they help with certain disciplines, or maybe how they're completely different from certain disciplines. So kind of talk to us a little bit about that, and kind of give our audience an idea of what you've been able to take away from each car, each track, and been able to apply it for future stuff.
Yeah, I think it's at least with some of the Car Store stuff, it was less about the tracks and more about the racecraft and seat time, because there's not many NASCAR races that they are both on the same schedule, Car Store and NASCAR. But there's definitely like North Wilkesboro. But yeah, I think it's more about the seat time and racecraft. I didn't have much oval experience or any oval experience in a stock car. I had a little bit of Legends experience before getting into NASCAR trucks, but I also haven't done an oval start in NASCAR trucks. I think right now, at least the TA2 stuff for trucks has helped me more than the Car Store stuff, just because I have only done road courses. But I think that Car Store has definitely helped a lot for when I make my first oval start.
Yeah, were you a NASCAR fan growing up? Like, what was your racing fandom growing up? Like, obviously, we all aspire to be like Dalton with that setup right there. That's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. But, when did your racing fandom start, and like it click from like, okay, I love racing, and then it clicked to like, okay, I want to be in that race car driving, and I want that to be my career.
Well, I was a racing fan growing up. I started racing when I was 3, so ever since then, I was a racing fan. I didn't really have I don't even remember past when I was like 6. I had no idea what happened. Can't remember anything. But since from what I remember, I was a racing fan ever since I started racing. My dad was a racing fan before that, and he went to a couple NASCAR races, but none of my family was really involved in racing. My mom did some sailboat racing when she was younger, but he just brought me to a go-kart track, my dad, when I was younger. And he asked me if I liked it, and I said, yeah. And then he got me a go-kart, and we went racing, and I did that till I was about 10. And I kept on moving into bigger cars and stuff, like Legends cars, micro sprints. And then like TA2, I did some stadium super trucks and nitro cross and stuff with like Travis Pastrana and Robbie Gordon. And then after that, I just started doing some Car Store stuff and some truck stuff. So
what the hell did you race at 3 years old? They wouldn't even let you play football until I was like,
yeah, there was a little bit of lying going on there. You're supposed to be 5, but
that's fair.
Yeah, he looks 5. Yeah, slap him in. Come on, he's got it.
Yeah. I mean, you got the job done, then
Yeah.
I don't know what your results were like if they keep track of them for
I can't remember. I don't know.
Exactly. But you mentioned all the connections and all the big names that you've had. I was recently seeing like you've raced against Keelan Harvick, and I know Kevin Harvick had nothing but great things to say, about you and your family. That kid, 13-year-old kid, just signed a Toyota deal, by the way. I know that's crazy for all of us to just read the headline. But what has it been like being able to have those relationships with, people, not only obviously race against Keelan Harvick, who's also on the way up, but have those relationships with the names that have kind of, been in the sport of not only NASCAR, but motorsports for a while? And is there any specific, great advice that you've gotten from anybody?
Yeah, there's all those names are just like, without most of them, I probably wouldn't be racing right now, because they help me in little ways as I'm coming up. And then there's people like Nitro Cross. I met one of my biggest sponsors. They gave me a big sponsorship for TA2. And so it's just like making connections as I kept going up, and they put pieces together. And I don't find stuff sometimes but I find stuff sometimes, and they find stuff sometimes for me, and yeah, it's just they help me in little ways that push me a little further along as I'm going up, and it really helps. I think making connections is probably one of the most important things in racing. It's like the sponsorship side of things and marketing yourself and talking to people is probably the second hardest or one of the hardest parts of racing, if not the driving.
Yeah, exactly.
How hard is that to do? We were talking about this a little bit at St. Pete, but how hard is that to do at somebody your age? I mean, that's not something that, somebody in high school or in college would typically be having to do for their own career at this point.
Yeah, I definitely have to get out of my comfort zone. I feel like when I was first getting into it, I was awful at it. And my dad actually still helps me a lot with it. He is very involved in my racing and helps me a lot. But we always are talking to people pretty much every day, trying to find new things, new sponsorship, and new races that I can do. And then we just have to, once we find a new race or new sponsorship, we just have to put it together, always reaching out to people to, get on podcasts, get interviews, to get my name out there. And also reaching out to companies to see if they'll help me. But yeah, it's a full-time job outside of the racing to try and raise money like that.
Well, we're glad to be a tiny part of it here. And all we can say is sponsor this guy. Sponsor him. Great race car driver. We got some questions in from the viewers. Gatlin the Gamer said, any future starts currently planned? I know Mason kind of asked about that already, but he asked if you could run anywhere for trucks, where would you? I guess if you had to pick any track on the schedule, maybe on the Truck Series schedule that there is right now that you kind of want to race for the first time, what would that be?
Yeah, I think since I just have more of a road course background, I'd obviously want to race most of the road courses first. Like I think San Diego's the next one, and then Watkins Glen and Lime Rock. I would want to race all of those. And then I'm not old enough. I'm only 17 to do the I can't do the ovals over 1.2 miles. So I can't do any of those quite yet, maybe next year. But yeah, I am currently trying to get as many races as I can. And we are planning on doing most of the road courses if we can get them together.
Nice, and you certainly have proven you can get it done on the road courses. One of the last main questions I have is talk about getting it done on the road courses. You were a champion in the Cars Tour. Obviously, you know how to get it done on short tracks. We talk about a lot of people that either come into the sport or coming up, and they're either one or the other. They could be a short track ringer, but having to figure out everything else, or they're a road course ringer and they're having to figure everything else out, kind of like a Shane Van Gisbergen. Do you feel like it benefits you that you can be considered a top name on a road course, but also on any short track in the country?
Yeah, I think it definitely benefits me. I think that it's pretty hard to be able to do both. Most people can now because as road courses were more introduced into NASCAR, there was a lot of people had to figure out how to do them more. And there's been a lot of, development and practice that have gone into road courses in the past couple of years to get up to speed on them. But yeah, I think it's a really good thing to be able to do both. Yeah.
Gotcha. 100%. I'll swing it around to the boys one more time. Does anybody have anything else?
How did have you spoke to Al Neese or Cody Efaw since the race? How'd they react?
They had really good reactions. I haven't talked to Al. He's not as much involved anymore, but they were both really happy with how I finished. I think Cody was super excited about it and wanted to get me in more. So I'm hoping that we can put some together here and race a couple more times this year.
Good to hear.
Certainly love to see you out there. Mason?
Most set on my end.
Gotcha. Well, Ben, we appreciate you coming on, man. We certainly hope to see you at another racetrack the rest of the season in a beautiful looking race truck like you were in this weekend. Congrats on the 11th place finish, and thanks for coming on. We hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that is Ben Maier, 11th place this weekend at St. Pete, which is an incredible feat. Like we talked about, the fact that he practice really good, your hopes are high, and then you get told you're starting in the back because it's precipitating and we have washed out practice and qualifying. They got about maybe 5 to 6 laps of practice, I believe, from when me and James Davison were looking at the results outside of a coffee shop. That was a good time. But to be able to start from the back, a hard place to pass. We will certainly, we heard the positive side of it. And then at 7:30 later on, Nathan Nicholson will be joining to give us the, I guess, negative side of it, because I don't even know how yet, but the truck was destroyed, and we'll pull it up here before we pull it up in front of him later. But very unfortunate day for him. Obviously, very skilled MX5 Cup drivers, got a great deal with Wheelan over there. So we will certainly be excited to talk to him later on tonight on the show. But for now, let's kind of just wrap up some St. Pete talk, some general talk about the event. Obviously, I'm going to be a little biased here. I live in Tampa, right? I'm about 30 minutes or on the way back in traffic, hour and a half away from the track. I would love to see this return next year. I know a lot of the executives with the event on local news kept saying, well, hey, this is our tryout for maybe a Cup race here or an O'Reilly race here. Now, if we brought Cup and O'Reilly here the same weekend as IndyCar, don't know where we're putting everybody. That's definitely not going to work. Maybe we just do one weekend and the next. I don't know. I don't know how they'd figure that out logistically. But as far as just the racing, do you feel like, number one, we should come back here with the trucks? And number two, should we bring more? Dalton, I'll start with you.
I'll answer both. The trucks, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I think this was a very successful weekend, especially with the on-track product. Everybody, including IndyCar guys, we said it earlier, like everybody was expecting this race was going to be in a crap show. Sorry, I don't know what you guys is swearing. Your swearing rules are
no boundaries. It's okay.
No boundaries.
We used to have Stephen Malazzi was on this show, so
that's that's a good point. That's a really good point. So I think everyone thought it was going to be a shit show, right? I even talked to Jackson Lee before the race even started, and he was going to
very tall guy, by the way.
Very tall guy. Takes a lot after his father, but he dropped to the back before the race, and he said they were planning on it just because they thought turn one was going to be an absolute pile up. I heard fans behind me at the start of the race saying, "Oh, they're going to pile up in turn one. Just you wait." And it didn't happen. I was so surprised, and I was very, very proud. Honestly, it's kind of weird, like being proud of like the Truck Series field, like. Hell yeah, guys! Like you're not crashing every 2 laps. Like this, we're actually getting green flag laps, and it was pretty cool. So, credit where credit is due. The Truck Series field really impressed me this weekend, and at a street course race where the Cup Series in Chicago was like piling it up all the time. So, it's pretty interesting how that worked out. But I digress. So anyway, regarding bringing more, I think when it comes to the Cup Series. Look, here's how it is. I think we need a street course race, at least one street course race on the schedule each year, just because it's cool, right? Like I think we should have a street course race and make it just keep the novelty of it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but we're not gonna have. Look, we're gonna have San Diego this year, but not likely gonna come back next year. It's very unlikely. It's probably just gonna be a one-time thing. So if we need a street course race next year, why not this one? Why not St. Pete? The only thing that might take away from it is St. Pete is not exactly a market that NASCAR is trying to get into, like Chicago or California or something like that. And also we already have 3 other races in Florida each year, so maybe a 4th race might be a little bit too much. So NASCAR might try to avoid that. That's the only thing that might take away from it. I think it'd be cool to have a Cup race here, but again, like you said, RJ, you and I are both gonna be a little bit biased. We're both from Florida. Like, yeah, sure, we'd love to see it, but realistically, probably not. It's probably not going to happen. But I do think the Truck Series could stick around for a few more years.
Yeah, 100%. Mason Maggio.
I mean, considering it was my first time in St. Pete, not only to see IndyCar, but also to see the Truck Series. And I talked to a lot of the drivers that I knew in the field, and they said, man, this is a proper racetrack, like, at the end of the day. Like, it's not something that was thrown together to make a street course. It is a full-blown racetrack, and a lot of the guys said, like, man, this was a blast to race at. It was like Ben said, it was tough to pass. Guys really had to work hard in order to pass. And there was a lot of opportunities to make a good product of the racing, and like you guys, I think we all agreed, like, it exceeded our expectations. We didn't know what to expect because it's depending on if we got a full moon or not. Like, the trucks could be either the cleanest show or like a wreck fest, and that's coming from somebody that's competed in almost 50 truck races. So, 30 truck races. But I think it was a great event. I know logistically speaking, it might be a little bit tough because, I mean, let's be honest, guys. Like, it was the second tier race for that weekend. Primary focus is, hey, we got IndyCar on Sunday. That's the big show. Trucks were kind of right there with MX5 and NXT, where it was like, all right, well, this is just here's the second tier, the third, fourth. But I think it was a great show. I saw a lot of fans that had never been to a NASCAR race that really enjoyed it, thought it was a great show, and really loved it. But I do got to agree with you guys. I think it's going to be tough going to Florida for 4 times throughout the year. And I know we're technically going to a different market, considering it's not on the East Coast. It's more the West Coast of Florida. But like you said, I mean, you want to be able to hit if you're NASCAR, you want to be able to hit markets that you're not already in. But I thought it was a fantastic event. The drivers that I talked with thought it was a great event. They thought it was a fantastic track. Said that they would love to come back and do it again if possible. I would love to see the O'Reilly Series or Cup get there. I think it's just a matter of figuring out how to coexist with IndyCar. It is the big thing. I know we've done it before. We've done it at the Brickyard, and I think we're going to do it at Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's just logistically trying to figure out if it makes sense to bring the other 2 series there, and how that would all coordinate accordingly to fit IndyCar and NASCAR schedule.
Yeah, it's logistically it'd be very hard as far as spacing. I don't think we get the Cup Series there because, like Dalton said, not exactly the market they're looking for, but I think it's perfect how it is right now. Maybe maximum O'Reilly Series, bring them there because obviously, as I've always and famously said, they could put on a good race in a Walmart parking lot. That's just the O'Reilly Series. But I think if you want to guarantee that people are going to show up for a Truck Series race, you want to have NASCAR presence there, all these big names, that are coming into the race, probably, good place to sell sponsors, depending on which team you are. I think for sure that doing that race on that Saturday will certainly bring people in. You always have a crowd. I mean, when we even go for the IndyCar race, it was even more crowded this year as far as media center, people at the facility. But even when we go just for the IndyCar weekend, I mean, people are there all weekend. They pack out that place. So this was just a cherry on top. It's not even like they needed it. It was just a cherry on top. So I do want to roll in this new segment here. We'll roll it in with Dalton since it consists of St. Pete and we're all here. So I've been wanting to introduce a segment called "What Are We Doing?" And now thankfully Control Alt Project is here to help us out, bringing this segment to the show. So it kind of has something to do with St. Pete. So we're gonna roll it here. This segment is called "What Are We Doing?" presented by Control Alt Protect. And like I said, it has something to do with St. Pete. Not necessarily a crazy thing like what are we doing, but I did look at it and say, what are we doing? This was the spotter stand for some of the people inside the racetrack on a tree. Probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Crazy visual. Posted it. People were lighting it up. Thought it was hilarious. I mean, this visual in itself, I mean, we all were kids. We all did, tree houses before, climbed in our share of trees and things like that. I guess they didn't stay there the entire race. But I'm so mad I didn't get to see that in person. Obviously, we were either in the media center or the front stretch. This was, way towards the other side of the track. But as most people know, we have a lot of spotters at road courses. like I just looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is peak. I never seen that before. Perching up in a tree with the stuff too, like with the equipment, like not short-handed or anything. I'll pull up the visual back again, but what did you make of this when we were able to see on Twitter? We got the headset and everything, backpack perched right next to him. Would you be worried you were going to fall off if you're locked in? Like, what's going on here?
Man, that is Truck Series manifest. That like if the Cup Series was here, like they would have like a crane or something. They bring in a crane so the spotters could stand up there, so people like Brett Griffin aren't on Twitter crying about how there's these guys like this is blue collar Truck
That guy
Series
likes
spotter
Brian.
work. Like oh, there's bees up here. Like it's spotting so hard. Like what? Like first off, I want to give shout out like the guy in the top there, the guy above, that's Leighton Seville. That's Nice Motorsports PR guy. So like he's done some spotter work in the past. So that dude is working. That dude was working hard this weekend. There were 4 trucks in that race for Nice Motorsports, and not only is he doing PR work, so he's got to deal with people like me and RJ, but he's got to do some spotting by climbing up a tree. Big kudos. Like, but that's dedication. That's commitment, Holmes. Like you got to respect that. I love it.
Yeah, I want to spot somebody sometime in my life. It might end up being Mason Maggio on a road course and he needs a third spotter. I'm an experienced type of guy. Obviously, I want to drive. I'm going to drive a race car at least one time in my life, but I want to spot too. I want to put on that headset, have somebody have the trust in me. And as a driver, would you be fully trusting someone? They're like, hey, where are you perched at? Like, yeah, I'm on a tree in the middle of the track here with two other guys. We're gonna be spotting you here. Is that something you trust, Mason, as a driver?
I don't have to know the location. I just need to know that you're calling whatever's going on around me. But that's taking. Hey, we're gonna make this work to a whole nother level. I mean, that is so tough to do when you're standing on top of a tree. Thankfully, the branches were strong enough to hold those guys up and their stuff. Because I mean, like, there's not a whole lot of like, Berkey built up trees like that in that area. So I mean, hey, kudos to them for making it work. And I mean that's what you call being creative and trying to make it work. So I mean, you say, what are we doing? And they're basically saying, hey, we're making this happen, whether we're comfortable or not. We're spotting this corner or this set of the racetrack. So no, I mean it's super funny. It's super cool. It's a good story. But yeah, no, I mean you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day, man. If you're getting paid to spot, you better be spotting. It doesn't matter where you're at.
Yeah, look, ARCA and trucks have their own level of things we expect from those series. Not a detriment, but we love them all in their own ways. So definitely thank you to Control Alt Protect for sponsoring that segment, offering full scale cybersecurity services that protect your information, your clients, and your company when cyber criminals attack. They'll be there, just like Batman. So let's move over to Circuit of the Americas, Austin, Texas. We had to watch that virtually on the road course over there, the shortened course. We can talk about kind of the hottest story of, well, Daytona, the hottest story after Atlanta, and okay, now the hottest story after Circuit of the Americas. Tyler Reddick has won the first 3 races of the season. People have three-peated in the Cup Series before, but people have never won the opening 3. And I tweeted about it. I personally think this is the most impressive thing I've seen in the next gen era because of all NASCAR's done to make these races crazy. We got stages, we got parity in the series, the car, like everything was done so that we wouldn't have results like this. Not the primary focus, but like as we've seen in past years, we've been having close to 16 or 16 plus winners every year. It is hard to not only just win a race, but consistently win races. And to do it at Daytona, then Atlanta, lead a handful of laps there. It's not like he just showed up. And then Circuit of the Americas to start on pole and win the race, hold off Shane Van Gisbergen. I think this is, in my opinion, the single-handedly the most impressive thing I have ever seen done in the next gen era. 3 in a row, a three-peat, just like Michael Jordan. Dalton, what did you make of this feat here for Tyler Reddick? And obviously this gives him a ton of momentum in a season now where points matter a whole lot more than just wins.
Man, of all the people, of all the drivers in the garage, I don't think I would have picked Tyler Reddick to be the guy that wins the first. At least not like after last year, like I wouldn't have tabbed him to be the first guy in NASCAR history to win the first 3 races of the season. But man, no, here he is. He's done it. So impressive, right? But we got to give credit. Yeah, Daytona, Atlanta, Coda, like those aren't typical NASCAR tracks, and we had them back to back to back. But and they kind of Daytona and Atlanta are super random. Coda's not as random, so it's pretty impressive too. But to see somebody win all 3 of those is very impressive. But just remember, like we saw Christopher Bell win 3 in a row last year on 3 very different track types. It was Atlanta, Coda, at this time of the year, Atlanta, Coda, and Phoenix. So I don't know what it is about the beginning of the year, these last couple of years to have 3 guys, have guys win 3 in a row. But let's not forget, okay? I just want to put this kibosh on this whole story with Reddick. Let's not forget, we're not done yet. He could win Phoenix this weekend, and then we got a guy winning 4 races in a row for the first time since 2007. So this is big, right? This is such a huge deal for the sport, and also, I mean, great for Michael Jordan too, right? Like, I mean, I think I saw a post earlier today that said like Michael Jordan, he can't go anywhere now. Like he has to be at the racetrack every race, which would be so great. Like I love seeing Michael Jordan be amped and be happy because his team is winning. I have not seen like a celebrity team owner be as pumped up and amped as he is. It's so healthy for us. It's so healthy for the sport seeing a guy like him be so invested into it and be so emotional over it. So this is great for us. I'm happy for Tyler. And this is a really cool story. I mean, like you said, RJ, like you typically have a very diverse group of drivers winning races every year because the next gen car is just so equal. So the fact that a guy can do 3 in a row in this day and age, not just the beginning of the year, but just 3 in a row in general, is very, very impressive.
Yeah. How about you, Mason?
I mean, it's definitely a great way to start the year, no doubt about it. I think especially considering last year was definitely not the year that 45 team wanted, and they didn't meet expectation last year. And you could tell it was kind of weighing down on a lot of those guys. It was weighing down on Tyler. And then you come into the new year after all the craziness between the season not being good last year, the lawsuit, and you come out right out of the gate. You win 3 in a row. And like Dalton said, at like 3 completely different racetracks that are, Atlanta and Daytona are different in their own rights. And then you go to Coda. And don't forget, Tyler's a pretty darn good road course driver. I mean, he won Indianapolis a couple of years ago when we were still on the road course. And I mean, he's usually been up front and in contention at those road course races. So I don't want to say it was a surprise, but I just know when you've got talents like SVG in the field, you know that they're going to put up a damn good fight. But it's so cool to see. And like Dalton said as well, to the publicity side of it with Michael Jordan and, TV's loving it, and then the public's loving it too, because Michael Jordan's just such an icon in his own right. So to see it kind of get launched into a whole new level and for the right reasons is cool to see too on some major platforms and news stations and pages and so forth. So kudos to Tyler Reddick and that 45 team for coming out of the gate with guns blazing. And I'd be definitely curious to see what Phoenix could look like for that 45 team. I know Phoenix has kind of been a little bit of a wild card towards the end of some of these cup races. I feel like people tend to forget that, if we got a green, white checkered, those restarts are crazy at Phoenix. So anything can happen, but I definitely expect that 45 to be up front with all the momentum that they've built and everything that they've kind of put forth to start the year. But definitely really cool to see them just completely excel. So it'll be interesting to see what Phoenix holds for the 45 team, but definitely got to put them pretty high up on the list for guys that I think it might be too early to predict, but I think you got to put them in the chase conversation, towards the end of the year if they're continue to have, the momentum that they have right now.
Yeah, this is, in my opinion, I think this is something that we were missing, kind of like I just alluded to. But as far as somebody dominating and having to chase somebody, that feeling, I don't know. I feel like when I was younger, I hated the people that dominated. Boy, I hated Jimmy Johnson winning all those titles. I hated people being dominant at specific tracks. But as a guy that loves stories and storylines now, covering the sport, I hope for stories, and I do love now watching the race, and now with the chase, with points mattering so much, and now with a guy starting the year off dominating, now we get to add in the storyline of, okay, everybody's chasing Tyler Reddick. This is the guy we're chasing. Notice how nobody is even saying anything or caring about who the defending champion is. Like, who is it? Oh yeah, Kyle Larson won the championship last year. Usually you go in and, all right, who's going to chase Kyle? No, because that's just, it wasn't a domination factor. He may have been leading the points all year long, but nobody talked about it because it didn't matter, right? So now it matters. Now we're going to be following it. People are going to be chasing Tyler Reddick. I have a lot of fun. Even just, I rewatched the O'Reilly race at Coda because I didn't really get to fully watch it because we were obviously in St. Pete. Just the story of getting to follow Shane Van Gisbergen through the field. Like, he's going to be the strongest guy. Connor Zilic is the guy to beat. But you get extra excited when you see somebody give them a run for their money. It's crazy. And SVG making freaking 4 wide pass probably to get out there to the lead, and having some big Brent Cruz, getting up there in the lead, mixing it up. Those storylines are fun for me to follow. So for all the people on Twitter getting genuinely pissed off about Tyler Reddick winning 3 races in a row, screw off. What are we doing? What are we going to be mad at? Michael Jordan's been at the racetrack 3 weeks in a row. He's going to Phoenix. Sports blowing up. We're everywhere. Let's be happy. This is cool to see somebody appreciate greatness. I didn't appreciate Tom Brady when he was on the Patriots when I was young. Freaking hated that guy. Hated the New England Patriots when they won every year. But all I got to say is appreciate greatness. This is really cool to see what he's doing. And yeah, how about Michael Jordan being at the track 4 weeks in a row? His schedule seemed to up more and more after he kind of, left the deal with the Hornets. But now he just seems, fully in. And he's talking ball with Jamie Little. Y'all hear his interview? He's like, yeah, we got this and that. Billy Scott, teams getting put together. SVG's coming up. We're like, yo, this guy's talking like a genuine NASCAR team owner. I imagine that's been cool for you guys to see somebody of that stature in our sport.
Okay, real quick, RJ, how long have you been on Twitter/X or whatever?
Like in my life?
Yeah, how long have you been on there?
I think I got it probably around a little bit before COVID, maybe 18, 19, I think I started tweeting. 19.
All right. Well, you've been on there long enough to know nobody is ever happy on that damn app. So who cares? Who cares at the end of the day? Like you said, it's great for the sport. Everybody's going to have their opinions and everybody has the right to their opinions, but it seems like nobody's really happy on that app. Everybody wants to say whatever they want to say, but I agree with it, all of you boys. I think it's great for the sport, and we should be celebrating that rather than finding a reason to get pissed off over what is so incredibly healthy for the sport at the end of the day with the publicity and what we're trying to see. And like RJ said, it kind of reminds you of the Jimmy Johnson days. It's all right, everybody's chasing Jimmy Johnson, for a title, for wins every single weekend. And now I think Tyler Reddick is, so far this year, is that guy. So we should be embracing that. We should be embracing the publicity and the good that's coming from this, because we certainly have had an up and down deal with publicity in outside of the NASCAR range in our media group, and this is something that we need to be encouraging more than anything else. So, like I said, it's a big deal for the sport, and it needs to be celebrated more often. But I think we got to talk about somebody else. It was a little bit unexpected, but I guess Maier Snyder made his Cup Series debut very unexpectedly midway through. So I want to give a shout out to him real quick. Maier is a good friend of mine. He's trying to help me in any way that he can. And I know he's been really working hard behind the scenes to get an opportunity. I don't think he ever would have expected that it would have been in the 48 Ally Hendrick car. But no, I'm glad he got it, and it's crazy. He's a prime example for any race car driver out there. Always bring your race gear to the racetrack, whether you're in the car or not, because you just never know. But kudos to him. Did a great job. Kept the car in one piece. Did what he needed to do in tough circumstances. And hopefully at least some more for him. You know, Mai's a great ambassador and a great guy in the garage area, and somebody that definitely works hard for his opportunities.
Yeah, always bring your helmet.
Always.
RJ, bring up that photo of Maya one more time.
I got you.
Bring him up one more time. He looks so tired. Like he looks like he's already been in the car at this point.
Hey, he's been walking around.
I guess he's been walking around doing his broadcast stuff. But what a cool story, man.
I just want to know, I can't wait for, I know he probably won't come on here, but maybe if he does an interview sometime, Chad can ask like what the thought process was. I mean, did you literally just turn around and find the first racer that you saw, or like, did you already kind of have this in the playbook? Because usually a lot of teams, some teams will have like a reserve driver on site, right? So when they said somebody was getting in the 48, I'm thinking, oh, maybe somebody's still there from the O'Reilly race, right? Maybe Sammy Smith's hanging out, Justin Allgaier, or whoever. And then they're like, Myatt Snyder is climbing in the number 48. And for anybody that's been at the track the last few years, Myatt, you probably haven't seen him in a race car, but he is at the track all the time. He's doing the pit spotting. And I know it's intentional. I know it's not just because of that gig. You want to be at the racetrack. You got to be there. It's super important to network yourself and just to be there. And clearly he's doing that because he's got his helmet. So after a few years of doing this, hey, maybe he had a dream scenario in his head where that would happen. Probably not, like Mason said, probably not the Hendrick Motorsports 48 Ally Motorsports or Ally racing car. But sometimes that does happen. So I'm glad we got to talk about that. Myatt, hopefully we'll have on the show sometime to tell that story. But before we send Dalton into the shadow realm, or the sunset, here at right before go to break here in a few minutes, I want to talk about some beef. Roll some clips here from Coda. First of all, Cole Custer and Carson Hocevar battle for what I think was like 29th on the racetrack, and Cole Custer wasn't taking no shit. Ran the 77 off the racetrack. For those of you that were watching, Mike Hill came on the broadcast acting like somebody was rolling into the catch fence, but it was just Carson Hocevar spinning off the racetrack. And then this was very intriguing during the weekend, or at least I found it intriguing. We're riding on board with Daniel Suarez as he kind of got into Connor Zilic, spun him out. People are already like, interesting. I didn't think there was anything too much there. But then they're racing together later. This is on board with Josh Berry. Suarez kind of already took a swipe at him left, and then he's like, gets into him. Was unsuccessful. You can say like, okay, was he trying to do something there? We saw how he was racing at Bowman Gray. Even talking to him at Daytona, he knows he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and you can't say there's no love lost with him in Trackhouse. You just see him kind of, So first of all, I love having in-car cameras. I think people don't talk about it enough how cool it was that NASCAR put that in there for all cars, because as us media folks, this helps a ton. Obviously, not only get content, but figure out what's going on throughout the track. But lastly, I'll circle you guys. How do you guys? I guess the Carson Hocevar thing was the Carson Hocevar thing. So we'll talk about Daniel Suarez. Do you think he's racing the Trackhouse cars with some fight there from what we've seen, and specifically the car that he got kicked out of? I guess
we've been talking about this since the Clash. He got into it with SVG. Said he was going to beat SVG's ass, and then. He got into it. I think he also got into it with Ross, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if he did or not at the Clash. But either way, good Lord. When it comes to Zilic, I feel like Zilic is like the innocent bystander, where it's like, dude, I'm just here, man. I wasn't a part of that team. I wasn't your teammate before. So I don't know. Maybe there was, but it is. God, I don't want to believe there actually is some kind of vendetta against Trackhouse cars from Suarez. I think it's just coincidence. I guess we'll see a little bit more as time goes on. Maybe we'll just pay a little bit more attention toward the 7 of Suarez. And by the way, Suarez is doing pretty good in the points right now. He's actually 7th in the point standings at the moment. He's the highest Spider Motorsports car, and the rest of them are also in the top 10s with McDowell and Hocevar in 9th and 10th. So Van Gisbergen is the only Trackhouse car that's ahead of him in points. I know it's only 3 races, so take that with a grain of salt. But I digress. This is. I don't want to believe there's actually something going on. I feel like Daniel's a little bit better than that, but there's no doubt there was clearly something that bothered him about it. He feels like he was kind of forced out of that car. And I'm sure there's some love lost there, especially considering the loyalty he had with Trackhouse, being the very first driver with that team. So it's being with the team that, since its inception. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I guess we'll have to see a little bit more as time goes on, but it is a little damning. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Mason, I'm going to cut you off real quick because you're coming back on the other side of the break. So we'll get your opinion in approximately 4 minutes. We're gonna take a quick break here. Let Dalton ride off into the sunset. Go use the bathroom and stuff. Things that you would normally do on a break. Dalton, real quick, where can people find you? Obviously, perchance, I believe in a half hour or two, they can find you as well on Happy Hour, where you had us on before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had RJ on. RJ, you've been on Happy Hour, or the Frontstretch Happy Hour podcast. We're actually going to be recording that. We'll be live in 30 minutes. So after you're done watching this show, after you're done watching or listening to the Motor Stardom show with RJ Starcevic and Mason Maggio, go check out Frontstretch Happy Hour, where we will be talking about a lot of the same things. So you'll just hear more opinions from people like Michael Massey and Brian Nolan, who are very unhinged. So you'll get to hear that a little bit. But yeah, you can check me out also on Twitter or X or whatever at PitLaneCPT. You can check that out, and then you can also read some of the articles that I put out on frontstretch.com as well. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So do that. Check us out.
Awesome. Do that. Check Dalton out. Dalton, we appreciate you coming on the show, and we will certainly have you on sometime again. And hopefully we do another Happy Hour Motor Stardom show collab at some point.
Absolutely. We need to. And RJ, Mason, I hope to see you at the track here very, very soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dalton. And that was Dalton Hopkins with Frontstretch joining us as our guest co-host. Busy man today, obviously has a show in 30 minutes that he will do for Frontstretch. So, Mason, what do you say? We take a 60-second break, come back at 7 o'clock?
Whatever you say. I just do what you tell me to do.
All right. Sounds good. We'll be back in 60 seconds with our second hour of the Motor Stardom show, Nathan Nicholson, and possibly a surprise when we come on the air. Oh, it was such a long break. Welcome back to the Motor Stardom show. Tuesday night. It's March 3rd. March has begun. It is crazy to think we are already in the third month of the year. But we are back as we are every Tuesday night. Quick thank you to everybody. A few weeks ago was celebrating 40,000 Instagram followers of Motor Stardom, 41,000 today on Motor Stardom. Thank you, everybody that follows along. We've had 10 million just solely Instagram views in the last 30 days, which accounts for the first 3 weeks of the season. So Absolutely fantastic. Obviously, got to be in Daytona, got to be in Atlanta, got to be in St. Pete. Now, going to have my first remote weekend this weekend covering Phoenix. And I got a notification on my phone from Rocket Money saying large transaction detected. Well, that's because we're going to be at Martinsville down in some hot dogs in a few weeks. So, won't take too much time off. Can't wait to get to Martinsville. Haven't been there before. It'll be my first time there. I picture my big three, which is Darlington, Bristol, Martinsville. Been to none of them. Want to get to all of them here in the next few years. Hopefully Darlington and Bristol later in the year. But as people say, always depends on what business looks like. So definitely thanks to Control All Protect for hopping on the Motor Stardom show for a little bit here. And helping us out as we get going here in the 2026 season. So we were just talking about Coda. We were talking about beef. I will let you complete what you were going to say on the other side of our 1 minute break, talking about Daniel Suarez in Trackhouse potentially having some beef on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's anything personal, like Dalton was saying earlier. I do definitely think that Suarez has probably got more pressure than ever, because he feels like, hey, I need to perform, and I've got to be able to prove that I am deserving of a seat and I'm deserving of competing at this level. Because compared to, if we're comparing Trackhouse to Spire, right, it's kind of a downgrade, right, and it's not what you want as a race car driver. That's not what you want. You want to move forward, not have to take a step back. And we've seen Suarez have to go through that at one point in his career. And that I remember a couple of years ago, him getting released from Stewart Haas and having to, go to Gaunt Brothers Racing because he just didn't have anything lined up. It was tough to secure sponsorship and be able to secure a competitive ride. And I think now more than ever, he's realizing that he's not going to get a whole lot of chances if something doesn't change. And I definitely, I don't say that to be mean. I say that more or less because as a race car driver, you want to be able to prove to team owners and to your sponsors that, hey, I'm worthy of a good seat. You just got to give me the chance and I can excel with it. So far, I think Suarez has been aggressive, but it's been paying off. But at the same time, I think there is a little chip on his shoulder that's saying, hey, we've got to, outperform our equipment in order to hopefully get that step back up, to where he was at. So I don't think it's anything personal. I think it's honestly coincidence. Bowman Gray and Coda, both are pretty tight courses for the most part. As far as the racing lines go, you're going to have run-ins on the road courses with these heavy stock cars. You're going to have run-ins at Bowman Gray. We see that with every single division that goes there. But as a race car driver, you got a chip on your shoulder that says, hey, we need to go and make something happen in order to get back up the ladder and get back up the food chain. And I hope he does, because Suarez is great for the sport. He's been somebody that I have a lot of respect for the sacrifices that him and his family have made for him to get to that point. And, but unfortunately we live in a performance-based industry, or we work rather in a performance-based industry. And if you don't perform or do what you need to do, you're going to be out of the seat. That's just the cold hard truth of the reality. I've seen a ton of good race car drivers come and go because of those exact things that I'm telling you. So, hopefully Suarez can get back up there. Maybe this will be a good rebound for him over at Spire. But yeah, definitely got some pressure, I think, going into this year more than he has in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I asked him in Daytona if it was the most motivated he has ever been in his career, and he didn't say the most, but he said definitely up there. So I think he's at a point where he's been so many places. He feels he proved himself at Trackhouse. Obviously, he probably felt he proved himself when he won the Xfinity Series championship, no matter how he did win it. But I think at this point, he feels he proved himself at Trackhouse, made races, or won races, made the playoffs. So it's just a matter of performing for a great organization and a car number that has not been good, right? A team, when you think about the number 7 team that has not been good, ever, really, since Spire has became the uptick. Didn't hit it with Corey LaJoy, didn't hit it with Justin Haley. So they're hoping now they can get an uptick here with Daniel Suarez, and great start to the year, top 10 in points. But this is the stretch. This is just stretch where it's interesting starting off the season with Daytona, Atlanta, Coda, right? Super speedway, drafting hybrid track, road course. But now we get to the part where we can kind of consider it not real racetracks, but they call them the traditional racetracks. So we go to Phoenix this weekend. We go to Vegas. We go to Darlington, Martinsville, Bristol, Kansas, all before we go to Talladega. So you're talking about 6 races here where I think now are really going to be able to show us, I always split the season kind of stages. This early part of the year is just seeing who can start off strong. We get to see who really made the most progress over the off season, because whoever is consistently strong in these races, again, Phoenix, Vegas, Darlington, Martinsville, Bristol, and Kansas, are going to be people that we are like, okay, like these guys are legit. So does Daniel Suarez and the 17 fall off these next 6 races, or do they keep their momentum? Do they continue to have speed? I think that is the beauty of the parity of the NASCAR Cup Series now, is we really don't know. We really don't know who can come out and be good and who can come out and just not have it. As far as people I'm already worried about early in the year is Alex Bowman, last in the point standings right now, 36th in the point standings of all chartered race cars. Yes, it is super early, but when I look at teams that are in this position, I need these teams to start off with a gap, right? SVG and Daniel Suarez, I don't completely expect to be top 10 cars in points by the end of the regular season, but does being 5th and 7th after unpredictable races help them? Yes. That's kind of how I felt in the O'Reilly series about Austin Green, as far as really needing that Coda run to be really good for them to have a shot maybe at the playoffs, but then to have that mechanical issue, then it's like, crap, the races that we could have been good, now we really have to, pick back up on this. So, don't look at the point standings too hard to anybody. Denny Hamlin's in 23rd. Connor Zilic, Young Guns in 32nd, Chase Briscoe's in 27th, right? A lot of things are going to happen, but pay attention to these next 6 weeks, because we're going to see who really has speed, who's got it. And boy, who can catch the 45 car at this rate. So I guess through the gap, I'll swing it to a question for you, Mason. Obviously, I'm looking at points right now. I can't remember where anybody is because it's so early, but is there anybody, maybe like an Alex Bowman, strikes your mind, who's at the back of the points right now that you're kind of worried a little bit? Connor Zilic 32nd, Austin Cindric 31st. Would you be worried about these type of guys where you didn't have them as a lock in your head to be top 10 in points at the end of the year? So the fact that they started off slow, is that worrying per se?
I look at Bowman a little bit as a worry for sure. Obviously, last year he went winless. If I remember correctly, I don't think he made the playoffs last year. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really have it off the top of my head.
He barely made it, I think. Made it on points. But
Okay.
he was out of there pretty quick.
Gotcha. And I look at that, and that's a really, really tough pill to swallow if you're the 48 team, when your teammate went and won the championship last year, your other teammate won the Daytona 500 last year, and everybody else in the organization at Hendrick is pretty much excelling, and you're just kind of there. I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. I think Alex Bowman is like quietly consistent, where it's like he's not talked about much, but when you look at the results, you're like, oh, hey, he finished top 5 here, top 10 there. He's in the picture. We just don't talk about him that much. But I feel like last year he was not talked about for the wrong reasons. And then obviously to start the year, obviously Coda was really tough with him having to get out of the car halfway through. Not of his fault, just, happens. But to your point though, I mean, the first 3 races of the year are usually the most chaotic, and that's because they're at pretty unpredictable places. Daytona is going to be Daytona. Atlanta, you can kind of put in that same category. Atlanta's going to be Atlanta. Coda, you kind of get a mixed bag. You're going to see guys like Austin Cindric, who are usually pretty good at road courses, be towards the front, and a couple of others. But I think like you said, the next stretch of races for guys like Bowman and Cindric, for example, are going to be the real tests, because those are the racetracks where it's like, hey, not only do you have to have the car, but you got to have the drive. You know, so that's where I really try to look at it, you know, through that, you know, stretch that we have coming up. And it's funny because I say the same thing for myself, right? You know, with me being in the car for, you know, Phoenix this weekend, as well as for, you know, Vegas, which I'll have some announcements coming out for that. But I even say the same thing for our group, you know, with being able to see, hey, where do we stand with this stretch of quote unquote real racetracks? But I think the same thing goes for those guys. I think it's going to determine a lot moving forward of where some of these guys can stand, and you know, figure out, hey, do we need to improve, or hey, are we better than we thought we were? We just started off rough.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about after not only next weekend, but as I've said, these next handful of weeks here at these types of racetracks. Then we'll be able to make some better declarations, I guess, per se, about people's performances. Now, I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about the O'Reilly race over at Coda. We talked about how in the Cup race it wasn't successful for SVG, but it was over in O'Reilly. I mean, this has been a track that has bitten him the last few years. Hasn't been able to just completely dominate nor win at all the last few years, but he's finally able to get that win. Fought hard for it. Austin Hill in second, who I definitely think is really sees himself as a pretty good driver on the road here, you know, at least in the O'Reilly series. Got a good finish in the Cup. I can't remember last year, 2024, really strong run there in the 33. He'll be racing this weekend at Phoenix. Will be interesting to see how he does. And then Sammy Smith over there at third. Great effort for them. But SVG getting that win, I thought rewatching it last night, kind of as I mentioned earlier, great race. I mean, I thought it was fantastic from start to finish. A lot of great things were going on. How about Brent Cruz in his first race, literally going 3 wide very early in the show to take the lead? You know, I thought that was really cool to see him do that. And then at the end of the race, people were wondering, where was Connor Zilic? Well, had some issues. They kept having to go to the back and fix them, working on the brakes, making their way up the field. And then unfortunately, he was tagged by the number 17. And this is one of the bigger storylines here in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. He came on the radio talking about how Corey Day is a hack, absolute hack with an explicitive. Between that, Corey Day in his interview kind of he took ownership for it, but kind of was mixed between that and blaming it on his car being messed up. Then he took to Twitter after and, you know, made this statement saying, I would like to apologize to anyone I've upset the last 3 weeks, making mistakes, but I'm definitely learning from them. The mistakes I've made the past couple of weeks are a poor reflection of myself and what I've been taught my whole life. I'm going to give 100% to make sure that the things that have happened these past weekends do not happen anymore. So big talk here. Corey Day, obviously he is in a very interesting spot, right? A guy who is learning asphalt still, learning this racing from dirt, but has been signified as Hendrick's protege. Some may say the guy that clearly, you know, they are going to put a full NASCAR O'Reilly series effort into for a guy that maybe potentially will come up to the Cup Series soon. Maybe a guy that potentially, knock, knock, might be in the 48 car eventually. That's kind of probably what they want, right? So he's learning, but unfortunately, when you have a guy that's learning in a very fast car, the mistakes are going to be more out there compared to the people that start for lower organizations and kind of learn racecraft first. I listen to very rarely when I listen to Door Bumper Clear. I did see the clip of Brent Cruz speaking this weekend or the other day, talking about how Corey Day was, you know, in dirt when he was racing on dirt, one of the cleanest drivers there. You know, nobody ever brought up Corey Day in a bad sense. He was one of the cleanest drivers there, obviously had a lot of speed, won races. And he kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like as a driver, he's upset about how people are being raced, but you know, he does understand that he is learning and he's sure that he will get it together, but has to clean it up soon. You as a driver in the field, Mason, I mean, I'm sure you're on the side where you do feel it is better not only for your competitors around you, but for yourself as a driver to be able to kind of learn your racecraft starting not necessarily maybe from the bottom, but maybe not one of the fastest cars on the grid in the O'Reilly series, I would imagine, going to tracks for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said it before and I've said it again on the show. We live in probably the toughest era of NASCAR for new guys coming in when you've only got 20 minutes of practice and you've never seen the place, you've never driven the car. It's a tall task for newer guys such as myself, such as Corey, and so many others that have come into this. Very rarely do we see guys come into it and just it click right off the bat, right? But a lot of these guys have the additional seat time in ARCA, trucks, whatever it is. I guess for my own situation, I didn't have that, so I just kind of had to figure it out on the spot, right? But I think for Corey's situation, because I can't really compare mine to his, right? But I mean, I hate to say it because he's gotten into a lot of people, and he and I have gotten actually into it a couple times on the racetrack. I don't talk about it, but I mean, both times at Martinsville last year, we had actually gotten together. And at one point, it was me racing on the lead lap. He was multiple laps down, and he shoved me out of the way, and I went from running, I think, like 23rd to 33rd in one corner because he just doesn't have the situational awareness, right? And then even the same thing at Atlanta was multiple laps down. We were running on the lead lap, and at one point he side drafted me so hard that we lost a couple of positions, right? So, and it's things like that have frustrated me with Corey. And I get it; he is learning. I know he's got an immense amount of pressure with him being in that 17 car. His Cup teammates have been winning races in that car and have been up front in that car. And I know his lack of asphalt experience is definitely showing, but at the same time, part of the learning process is making mistakes. And I 100% understand that. But at the same time, you don't want those mistakes to cost other people's races, right? Like we saw that with Connor Zilic, where unfortunately Corey's mistake cost Connor a potential shot at a win or a really good finish towards the end. So that's where, for me, it's really, really tough to try to, justify it, right? I think there's some areas where I can justify it, and there's a lot of areas where I'm like, hey, you need to take initiative for your mistakes. You can't just sit back and say, oh, well, I'm learning. Well, yeah, you are learning, but you got to take accountability for what you learn and what you do on the racetrack, whether it's right or wrong. I think that's the other thing that people have a lot of problems with. Somebody else, like we saw this very early on, funny enough, with one of our guests a couple weeks back, like Andy Jankowiak, for example. Like I remember very vividly the first time I ever saw Corey Day, it was him wrecking Andy Jankowiak for fourth in an ARCA race at Kansas or whatever it was. So, and even there, he didn't take accountability when Andy confronted him. This is just me using it as an example. But Corey can be a good race car driver, and he's got the resources to do it, but he's just got to be able to own up to his mistakes, and I think that'll speak more volumes than him just saying, I'm learning, I'm figuring it out, and, sorry, I guess. It's like, no, you need to take accountability for your actions. You need to understand the situation that you're in, whether you're up front or you're not having the greatest day and you're just kind of having to salvage as good of a finish as you can, but I get it to an extent, but at the same time, he's probably in a better situation, seat time wise and equipment resource wise, to where we can minimize those mistakes. It's just, I think the accountability needs to come first before saying, oh yeah, well maybe I messed up. So Corey can definitely be a great race car driver. He's got a good reputation on the dirt and other things that he's done, but he's just got to clean up those kind of mistakes that are avoidable is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, crazy, surprising speed a little bit too. Honestly, for me, obviously we know he's in a fast race car, but to even kind of be in the spot where he was on a road course, which I don't think he's run too many in his life, to be up there, obviously in the top five, I think is certainly impressive. So you kind of we've talked about this time and time again. We went over this with Ross Chastain in 2022 really fast, but had to clean stuff up. Carson Hocevar now, he's gotten the speed, but how do you finish races? How do you clean stuff up? So it seems like we've definitely had this trend of young drivers coming into the sport and good equipment, just having to clean some stuff up. Obviously, Ross and Carson's development were much different, right? This is something very unique that we're seeing with Corey Day, where he's kind of just learning driving it while also learning how to race people, to where Ross Chastain and Carson Hocevar at where Carson's at now and where Ross was, they'd driven plenty of race cars in their time, but have certainly never been in this spot before and are certainly figuring it out. Now, Ross was apologetic. Carson Hocevar is not. Corey Day is seemingly in the middle, to where I think he's kind of bouncing in his head of where of like, okay, should I, take account of it? Was it my fault? Was it, so, those are just unfortunately the kind of things where fans watch it. At least me, people are going to make mistakes all the time. We can get on them for a mistake or two. That's different than, I'm more of, okay, let me watch the post race. Let me watch their interview, and I think a lot of fans are like that. Let me watch their interview and see what they said about it. And then I'll judge them. People still in the Cup Series make mistakes all the time. Why do we see crashes? Why do we see crashes at super speedways and mile and a half, right? There's incidents, but most of the time you see them get out of the car and say, yeah, that was my bad. I effed up, unfortunately thought, whether I thought it was clear, this, that, whatever, a million different incidents can happen in NASCAR. So I think, moral of the story, just hopefully we see more accountability on his end. And I think more people will start to be certainly a little happier. So we'll certainly see how things go. In about 7 minutes, we're going to bring on Nathan Nicholson. Before we do, I want to talk about something fun that we did this weekend. And I say that you got to come out on Saturday night to Monster Jam. I got to spend Thursday and Friday doing media for the event. That was cool. Shout out to my buddy Danny, who came out with me and helped me with camera work for the second year in a row, as you can see here, perched up in perfect form right there. But unbelievable experience again. I mean, obviously as a kid, most of us, but me certainly, even last night when I was YouTube doom scrolling, watching Monster Jam, grew up watching Monster Jam, listening to Scott Douglas, who was one of the funnest interviews I did in the COVID era with Tommy Joe Martins. But this will never get old. I hope to do this Monster Jam at Tampa thing every year for the next, however long I'm alive for the next 80 years, because it is so much fun. It's so cool to be out there, those big trucks. It never gets old. And our good buddy Camden Murphy, former guy in the show, won both events. We were there Saturday night, didn't get to be there Sunday because of the cup race and everything. But having time in our Saturday night show, he put up a good performance, couldn't get the win. But then he said, oh, screw you guys for leaving. You're not coming back Sunday. I'm going to double down. So super proud of our guy, Camden Murphy. It's a very hard thing to do. For those who don't watch Monster Jam, you winning racing and freestyle in the same day, because they acknowledge the racing champion, they acknowledge the freestyle champion, and the overall event champion. So he won everything. The dude three-peated, not even doubled down. He tripled down. Guy took home 3 trophies. So I think that is awesome for him and Classroom Crusher. Like we talked about Mason, we hope that he's back in NASCAR soon. We hope he finds an opportunity because the guy can wheel. The guy can drive. I mean, the guy hopped in an ARCA car and almost won a race at Dover off of like barely any preparation, obviously. And then we got to hang out with this gigantic squad over by the pirate ship. Mason got to see the pirate ship at Raymond James for the first time. Gigantic squad led by Avengers Racing. If you've ever seen that account on Instagram, guy posts a ton of stuff, has a huge following. And the Monster Jam community I knew was pretty big, but apparently is freaking huge because people just kept showing up to this gathering at the pirate ship there in Tampa. So that was certainly really fun to be a part of. Mason, what was your impression of the Monster Jam event that you got to go to on Saturday night? Did you have a good time? I know you were geeking over Gravedigger pretty early on, but
yeah, no, it's funny. I told RJ, I hadn't been to a Monster Jam event since I was a little kid. So I've always had a deep respect for those guys and what they do. And like, the more I watch them, the more impressed I am with what they do. Obviously, we've gotten to know Camden Murphy over the last couple of years, getting to see his world. Ryan Vargas, another former guest of the show and good friend of the show, he's in Monster Jam now. So hearing the stories and the things that they do behind the scenes is so cool to me. But seeing it again in person was just so fun. Had an absolute blast. Learned a ton. RJ's explaining a ton of stuff to me throughout the event, but man, I really enjoyed it. I have such a deep respect for those guys and the engineers too. I think we don't give the people that put those badass machines together. I mean, those trucks are absolutely incredible. Just the engineering, just how much wear and tear they can really take is super impressive too. So shout out to everybody a part of Monster Jam. I definitely want to go back to it again, and I think my phone probably heard me whenever we went, because all of a sudden my Instagram Reels and my TikTok is just flooded with Monster Jam content now. So definitely got to jump on that bandwagon, and then just seeing the creators as well in that Monster Jam space was crazy. I mean, they flocked like birds over there, and I couldn't even keep up half the time. And I felt like in that photo that we took, I felt like that one meme where they circle the guy and they said, who invited bro? That's how I felt being a part of that, because I was like, I just happen to be here. RJ's like, you're getting in the photo, and I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing here. All I know is I am watching monster trucks go ham. But no, it's super cool to get to see that in person, and I definitely want to go again whenever RJ will have me, or whenever we can make something like that happen. That was certainly cool.
100%. We will do it. Well, to transition out of Monster Jam, back to how we started the show, talking about St. Pete. This guy drove the number 76 for Freedom Racing Enterprises this weekend. Will a few more times this year. Also drove Miata this weekend. Dude was doing double duty. The truck looked beautiful before the race started. I don't know what happened after, but we're about to find out. So let's bring him in here. Nathan Nicholson, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, of course, man. You was super stoked to see that you got that opportunity, obviously in the 76 to race in the Craftsman Truck Series. We know you've run in MX5 for a bit now, and seasoned yourself and a lot of different race cars in your time. So I'll ask you first, what was the sensation of getting into that truck on the streets of St. Pete, where I feel like it probably had to be the two most different race cars that you could have driven, maybe besides the Indy car, on the same track? So how was that like doing double duty, and how'd you feel getting into that racetrack?
Yeah, I mean, I have virtually no stock car experience besides, the little bit of sim work I could do. So going from 2,400 pounds, 170 horsepower, all the way to 3,600 pounds and 650 horsepower was a little bit of a difference. But, the hardest part, honestly, was going around pit lane. That thing is horrible to drive at low speed. But, once you got out on track, it was just another race car. I was surprised how much feedback the chassis and the tire was able to give me. And once you got out there, it felt pretty natural. Obviously, no ABS, no traction control, but it's a beast to wheel around those streets.
Gotcha. Yeah, 100%. And I'll start with my burning questions here. The first one that I kind of started off with, I have no idea what happened actually, because I was, I go the end of the race, gone on pit road, and I knew that you guys were having some problems at the beginning. Seemingly got those kind of taken care of. You were coming back up through the field, and I don't know if I just missed it. Maybe I was walking somewhere and they did talk about it on TV. I don't know, but seemingly I was on pit road. I knew you didn't quite have the finish that you needed. I knew something happened, and then all of a sudden, this tow truck's towing a truck by me, and it happened to be yours. So
Yeah.
what happened there? When did it happen? And what was the sensation of the hit that you seemingly took here in this truck?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the race, actually the 3 laps of practice we started to get a little hot and kind of threw it up to being behind cars and not getting clean air. It wasn't that big of a problem. obviously 3 laps, it's hard to diagnose an issue like that. And we went out for the race, and I think there was a caution 7 laps in. And at that point, we were really hot. So I was up to, I believe, 20th or something like that. We had to come in and nearly go a lap down in the first stage to try to fix that issue. I mean, we were just trying to nurse it and make it to the stage to get a permanent fix going. Um, and, you know, I used that first, 15 laps in clean air basically as my practice. Never driven a stock car before. I was like, all right, I can finally calm down. I'm not around people. Uh, and then, every time in the stage, we just kept having to try to work on it. And, I think I got up to 14th twice and then kept going back to the 30s. So that part was frustrating, but I think it really showed our pace and kind of what we were capable of. The FRE guys put a really fast truck on track. And on the last restart, I hadn't been on old tires at all and not much side by side racing at that point. With people that were that competitive. So I think I restarted 13th, was on the inside, and side by side racing through two, got a little wide, pushed out a little, and then ran into the outside wall in two. So a little bit of a hit there. I hated it for all of our guys. I mean, they put a really good truck together to come out there and compete. And honestly, I feel like we could have been, up there fighting for nearly a top 5. I had pace on a lot of those guys during the race. So kind of what could have been, but I think we still kind of showed what we were capable of.
Yeah, and do you now, obviously you get to take this run that you did, the practice laps, we'll call them. I mean, in general in NASCAR, I'm sure you've learned compared to other series, we don't have a lot of practice time.
Mhm.
There's not a ton of practice time. It's kind of you roll out there, you got what you got, and here you go, you're going to go race. A lot of people kind of, even talking to Colin Brown after the race, using stage 1 and stage 2 as your practice area,
Yeah.
But do you feel like you were able to, obviously it's going to be a different track you go to next time, but you think you were able to learn a lot that you can still take to the next race that you run in the truck?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think for a little bit there in stage two, we had the fastest lap of the race. So I think there's a lot to be happy about and a lot to be thankful of as far as, getting clean air and working on passing and the learning opportunities. I just wish that rain didn't come in. If we would have gotten, 10 laps of practice, we would have found that overheating issue and would have been ultra competitive. But, I think all of us are super excited to go to Watkins Glen, and we get 5 laps of practice. we'll be there. So um, no, I'm super stoked for Watkins. I think we're gonna have another fast truck and be super competitive.
Awesome. I'll swing it to Mason here.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, working with FRE, we talk about Spencer Boyd being a big part of that organization and wearing a lot of hats, right? So, how influential was Spencer in trying to help you get comfortable with the truck and kind of get more familiar with everything? I mean, obviously, never been in a stock car before, never had to go through the procedures till that day and going
Yeah.
into the race. So, kind of talk to us a little bit about that and how he was a big help in trying to get you comfortable and making sure that you could excel with the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer has a ton of experience, right? He's done a little bit of everything and definitely a lot of trucks. So, having his experience to make the process as easy as possible and as mistake free as possible was definitely the key to our success. Like for example, even on the dash, we kind of simplified everything, had colored switches, so I didn't have to think. He'd just be like, blue this, red that. Um, and just being able to focus more on the driving was great. And obviously, you know, there's a lot more procedures to the NASCAR side. So him, let me know what to be cautious of, what I can push, where everything's going to be. Hey, the 2 hours before the race, you're going to be doing driver's meeting and driver intros, and it's going to be chaos. So let's, they've locked me in the semi for 5 minutes. They're like, all right, take a moment. This is going to be your moment, and then you're going to be flat out for the rest of the day. So, stuff like that, just having that guidance was, crucial, I think, to our success as well. So, for a smaller team like FRE, having, Spencer be able to be one on one with me and really, focus on my development beforehand and make sure all of the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, RJ, but I saw Spencer walking around wearing a lot of hats that weekend, getting you, I think, a bottle of water at one point and getting ready to hand that over to the crew guys over the wall. It was, he's definitely not afraid to, take on other challenges outside of driving. But, something that we ask a lot of our guests that have been, driving different race cars, right? Obviously, you've got a background running the MX5 Cup that same weekend. Kind of talk to us a little bit about that. What are the comparisons, the contrasts of the two cars? And then, on top of that, was it, a tough transition going, like you said, from an MX5 Cup car that's, very momentum driven versus a big, heavy stock car like the truck that is very much, you got to hustle those essentially and be kind of like that middle ground of where you're hustling it, but there's a fine line in over hustling it. So kind of talk to us a little bit about that and some of the challenges and the tribulations that come from, running two completely different disciplines.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, honestly, was just getting a brake feel down. The Mazda has, a brake booster and ABS, and it's very easy to like overpressure in those cars. Where the truck, you just kind of put the foot to the floor. So once you got in for a lap or two, I mean, I've been driving the Mazda so long, it was super natural, right? And the truck, it was honestly them being so different helped. It was almost impossible to make a mistake in a braking zone because you're approaching the truck braking zone in the Mazda, not even thinking about doing the brakes yet. And in the truck, you're at the 800, like, all right, I need to get to the brakes here. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, the two cars differences was a ton of fun. And I think having no truck experience as well made that process a little easier because I came into it with such an open mind. If I already had some, preconceptions of what it's going to be like or an expectation, I think I would have probably struggled a little more. But it was pretty easy actually swapping back and forth. And the hardest thing was just the schedules with drivers' meetings and needing to be somewhere pretty much at all times. So.
Yeah, how was as I look at your schedule here, we were laughing about it. Us NASCAR people, we like to do things late around here. So how was it as I look at waking up at the crack of dawn, probably on Friday for practice, and then qualifying, and then you gotta wait all the way until 4 o'clock for practice for NASCAR? Was that interesting for you? I know you guys raced Sunday, as you can see at 4 o'clock, but it seems seemingly sometimes you guys do stuff pretty early for the Miata. So was it weird kind of just waiting around for that time? Did it make you any more antsy with all that gap between you got in the truck for the first time? Or, was it just like riding a bike for you?
Our Mazda schedules are usually pretty flexible. Sometimes it's early, sometimes it's late. But honestly, the hardest thing on Friday is like I wanted the truck to unload so I could see it. I hadn't seen it yet, so every time we drive by to do like drivers meetings or whatever for the Mazda, I'd look over the truck pack like, oh, is it done yet? Like, but yeah, it's just long days. You never really have time to rest. Like, if I wasn't debriefing with the Mazda guys or coaching, I was weighing in for trucks and doing, the neurocognitive test. And then we had to go to Mazda qualifying. Came back, we checked the helmet, and then we did this. And then it's like, oh, bang, truck practice is already here. So it was hard to take a moment in the day to kind of breathe and going into the day after that Saturday as well was like, woke up for 5 o'clock for Mazda practice. By the time I was done with the truck stuff, it was, 6 or 7 o'clock. Next day, Mazda race at 7:30, right? You're waking up at 5 to make sure you get to the track at time. And then the truck race the next day during noon. So it was just long days. But it was a ton of fun for sure.
So this has been a question now I've been dying to ask. I saved it. We have a pretty loyal viewer here. He goes by the name Carson in the chat. And his Instagram username is Nathan Nicholson Worshipper. And so, as you can imagine, when we open questions up to the fans, he had a lot of things to say. So, There was more
That's
than,
awesome.
by the way, there was like 14. I couldn't
All
fit
right.
it in a single screenshot. But I will let you pick a few of these to answer here in a second. But first of all, who is this guy? I mean, we know him because he watches the show all the time. We love this guy. He's always in our chat. He unfortunately has to work tonight, it seems. He gets off at
No.
8, so that's unfortunate. So he can't be here with us live, or else that would be amazing. So clear. So that just means we're going to have to get you back on the show here at some point. But who is this guy? Is it like somebody you already know, or is he just happen to be a really big Nathan Nicholson fan? Or
Yeah, so I think this account first came to my attention towards the end of 2024. And honestly, at first, I thought it was like my engineer JC or something, pulling my leg. Um, and, I was like, started like looking at the account. I was like, oh, this is cool or whatever. And, eventually, like, no one was like, oh, yeah, I made that or whatever. And I ended up figuring out it was Carson. He's a kid from Canada, just a fan, sweet kid. He came by when we were racing the Mazdas in Canada. So, no, his support's great. It's cool, and everyone has fun with the account. All the Mazda guys love it, and yeah, it's cool to have his support. So, but let's see, we got a ton of questions here. My phone's a little small, so you just want me to run through a couple?
yeah, just pick some. Whatever you feel like screams to
All right,
you. I know we got
all right.
everything from mac and
Mac and
cheese to lime
cheese.
rock in here.
All right. So mac and cheese, for people that know me, it's an important thing to me. Been a big mac and cheese fan since I was probably 3 years old. I think when I was 4, I would only eat mac and cheese for about a month. Um, but my favorite mac and cheese is Annie's white cheddar mac and cheese. If you've never had it, you got to get it. Best mac and cheese you'll ever have. It's easy, box made, delicious.
Okay.
Let's see. Lime Rock, please don't do Lime Rock. I think it's the same weekend as Canada. Obviously, I just have the 3 races right now, so we'll play it by ear and see. Obviously, doing Lime Rock in the trucks would be pretty cool. But we're gonna work through the first 2 first. Let's see. Who's your number 4 fan? Well, I'd have to say Carson's probably top 3. So I'd probably say like my mom or my girlfriend or my sister. I don't know how that order stacks up, but I think that would be like the top 4. Um, who's your favorite current IndyCar driver? I have been an Alexander Rossi fan since I was a kid. 2016 Indy 500. I watched that, and from then on, I was like, that's my guy. Coming to the line, running out of fuel. Um, that kind of inspired me when I was younger to stay ambitious, even as a rookie. Like, everything you come into, you can try to succeed at. And I still kind of take that to this day, that mindset to everything. So definitely Alexander Rossi. What one do you guys want me to answer? What looks good to you?
I'll throw in one.
Okay.
Let's see. If you could work with one Truck Series driver at Daytona, who would it be?
Drafting wise, one Truck Series driver. I would
Maybe just
have
the
to
drafting
say
front. Pick one in
drafting
the Truck
front.
Series and then one in MX5.
Okay. If Truck Series, I'd probably say Lane Riggs or Spencer.
Okay.
Lane Riggs or Spencer. Obviously, if I'm driving the 76, not going to be possible to work with Spencer. But I got to meet Lane on the parade lap, which was pretty cool. He's always, super fast, good at the road courses, and he's always out there killing it. So I'd say Lane. And on the Mazda side, I would have to say not current Mazda driver, Aaron Johnson. We were teammates in 2024. Currently runs. He's badass. Current Mazda driver. If I had to get a lap off of someone, let's see. I would say Vaughn Mishko. I pulled a couple good laps with him. So
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, those are beautiful, beautiful questions there. Like I said, there were plenty of more that he asked. He really flooded it there, so that was much appreciated. We had a bunch in here.
that's awesome.
how's it feel to be the greatest to ever do it? Asked by Deacon Peterman. And then somebody said peanuts. What's your favorite Jason Hatakonis win? Whole bunch of stuff in here. So certainly glad to see you got a following. Wish the result was certainly better at St. Pete, but I'm sure you're gonna have a great run at the Glen. Have you run there before in anything?
I don't think I've been to the Glen. I've done it on, sim racing and stuff my whole life. I think I'm gonna try to pop up there for a Spec Miata race beforehand. Go beat around with those guys. It's been a minute since I've run a Spec Miata, but yeah, the Glen's gonna be awesome. That track flows so well, and after driving the stock car, I can see why, especially somewhere like the Glen, is going to be such like a rewarding driving experience. Like, the truck gives you so much feedback. It makes a lot of downforce at high speed, and you can really just like wheel the thing like through the kink at St. Pete. Like, you feel the tire kind of like scrubbing and shaking. Like, the high speed corners are a ton of fun, and coming off the low speed, like every little input you make matters so much. So I'm really excited for that opportunity.
Yeah, and what kind of is your goal? I feel like with racing, a lot of people, they might be racing in Miatas right now. They might be running something else, and their goal is to either get to open wheel or the goal is to get to NASCAR. Do you kind of have a set goal of like a future where you want to see yourself in 5 years? Is your future NASCAR? Is it more sports car racing? Like, where are you kind of at with what you're trying to pursue as a race car driver?
Yeah, it's a good question because, obviously I'd been very sports car focused until this opportunity came around. So, I think the stock car ladder right now is pretty healthy. The thing with sports cars is it's kind of hard to prove yourself. There's a million different series on multiple different continents. Like, the guy you're competing for a seat in GTD or whatever, you might never race against. If you want to make it to Xfinity or Cup, you're racing the guys you need to beat. So, I think right now it's very stock car focused. Obviously, I'd love to find my way back to sports cars in some way. But I think kind of, as you can see, all routes kind of lead to sports cars. Like, everyone comes and does the 24-hour and blah blah. So, but my big thing, like, I just love competing. I want to compete on the highest level I can and try to beat people. If I can work harder, spend more time, be smarter, and end up beating someone the next weekend, like, there's something in my brain that it just itches. So, definitely gonna be nonstop push until Watkins and get back at it.
Awesome. Well, certainly glad to hear. We will be rooting you on for whichever route that you do end up pursuing. It's great to have you here in the stock car world, and best of luck at Watkins Glen, man. Clearly, shout out to Carson for being a loyal viewer of the show. And we will certainly have to bring you on here very soon. I know Watkins Glen is coming up, so maybe we can pencil that in to get you back on here. And hopefully Carson, Nathan Nicholson worshiper, will not be working, and we'll be able to be here with us live. But thanks so much for coming on, man. And we'll certainly talk with you again very soon.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. And that was Nathan Nicholson, who drove the 76 this weekend. Awesome show, like we talked about. Nathan Nicholson worshiper on Instagram. Very great supporter of Motor Stardom, supporter of the Motor Stardom show. Of all nights that he's working and can't be here, his guy is on the show. Notice checkered flag Dan couldn't make it either tonight. So unfortunately, I know, man. But we got Seamus in the water. We got Seamus here. Seamus in the chat, always here to support Mason Maggio, which is always a great sight to see. So definitely thank you everybody for tuning in. It was a great show. Ben Maier, Nathan Nicholson, both guys that were fast this weekend at St. Pete. Certainly, I didn't even know that Nathan had the fastest lap at some point, but I believe it. I mean, once they got back out there on the racetrack, I knew they were setting down some great laps there. So will be fun to see him at the Glen. Road course races and trucks, like a lot of people said, or like Dalton said, hey, Corey Haim's not in the series anymore. It's kind of open to just win races in general. But yeah, those road courses, will certainly be interesting to see if the ringers pop out there. So we're looking forward to Phoenix this weekend. We got a lot of racing going on because we got the IndyCar series. Is Indy NXT there?
I have no idea.
I think.
I would imagine they would be.
I think they go every week with them.
Yeah.
I would imagine. So Indy NXT. We got the O'Reilly series, obviously, is there. We got the Cup series. We got ARCA, which I believe is happening on Thursday.
Is Thursday or Friday? I don't really remember. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it's Thursday. So I think Thursday they race straight up because I think they're just racing early and then getting out of there so that by the time that IndyCar comes in, they can just be gone because I imagine they'll be fighting for space out there, I would have to assume. So, but certainly, so we got Chicago in the chat. Shout out back home, Uncle T in the chat. Chicago will be up there in July, I believe. Yeah, Chicagoland Speedway in July. So that will be fun to be up there, get back up there. Wow. Nathan Nicholson worshiper is here.
There we go.
Sorry, man, you're too late.
Better late than never, but
better late than never. We were just talking about you. You'll be when you go back and watch the last 20 minutes of this show, you will be hopefully have a smile on your face because we were talking about you a good bit. We actually answered 4 or 5 of your questions, I believe. I know there was like 14, but we answered a handful of them. But we did agree that he will come back on the show, and we will make sure, Carson, that it is a show that you are not working or are free at that time. So didn't know you were up in Canada. Shout out to up there. Maybe we'll get NASCAR back to Canada here soon. Hopefully. So we'll see. But hey, Phoenix this weekend is going to be a great time. We're back at a traditional racetrack for the first time this year. Cup Series picks, who we got? I haven't really thought about it at all, so I'm just going to rattle it off the top of my head. Who's going to win Phoenix this week? Give me Ryan Blaney. Who you got?
It's pretty out there take. I mean, it's hard to argue Reddick, right, on a very, very hot streak, but I feel like it could be a mixed bag for sure. I mean, maybe William Byron, I think, wouldn't be a too far-fetched pick. He's been pretty decent at Phoenix in the past, so I'd have to look back on the last couple of races. I'm not gonna lie. I know we've had some great finishes, but I don't really remember everything else from Phoenix on the Cup side. But I'll take Willie B. Why not? Give me somebody different, somebody we wouldn't maybe expect, and we'll see where the cards fall.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I think Ryan Blaney's always been good at Phoenix. Obviously had a lot of speed this past weekend at COTA. So I think he'll definitely be fast at Phoenix. Okay, verified. It is my Uncle Tim from Chicago in the chat. The chat's very small on my screen over here in the right, and I can see like very small pictures. His username is Clay Crusher. That is awesome. But definitely shout out to back home over there. Excited for this weekend. Let's end off this show. The last clip I'll play on this show of me riding in a monster truck, which really caught the eye of Tony Maggio. We're here at Raymond James Stadium inside the truck, and we are taking a tour around here. As you can see, big jump right there. Now we're gonna come over here. We're gonna hit the backflip. Now we're gonna hit some donuts right here. There we go. Unbelievable here to be on this racetrack. You kind of see all the jumps here as we kind of drive by. The crutch cars right there. The other backflip ramp over there. Whoa! Good backflip.
I don't know. We're getting close to lining up for it, maybe.
Oh, here you go. This is just the type of stuff that you dream of here. You made it so bumpy over there.
Yeah, what the heck happened, man? I'm just taking a ride for you guys.
Come on out, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a fun time. Yeah, so that was really cool. Got to do that last year, but the production wasn't quite there. And we got to ride with the drivers this year. Brandon Arthur, who won racing on Saturday night, and then Colt Stevens as well. They were in the truck with us, so that just made for an even more awesome ride. So getting to ride in a monster truck, no matter what, is a really freaking fun time. And hey, maybe you'll get to do it next year. Come down a day earlier, and you can hop in Megalodon and go for some donuts. They took us around. They like the local, like they're willing to do whatever. So for reference, like the local news, come in. They're more casual, right? And they kind of went for a few loops. But boy, did they take us around that track like 2 times, 6 different cycles of donuts. The girl I was driving, asked me and Danny, like, hey, you just let me know what you're good with doing. I said anything. I was ready to go to the backflip ramp. Unfortunately, that would be a safety hazard, but would have done it. But anyways, that was a lot of fun. So again, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in this week. Having Ben Maier, having Dalton Hopkins, having Nathan Nicholson on the show was a lot of fun. And we will be back next week for some Phoenix action. Don't know exactly who our guests on the show will be. Always figure that out during the week, but it's going to be some fun people, maybe some people that have good weekends at Phoenix. 40 cars for 38 spots in the O'Reilly race. Mike Harmon bought some points today, so that 74 car of our good buddy Dawson Cram might get in the show. So we'll see, or have a better chance of getting in the show. They got some points, but on a shorter track, we know Dawson Cram can wheel the hell out of that race car, and I think they'll have a good shot at getting in. And also, definitely a future guest of this show. Shout out to Blake Lothian, making his NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut for Joey Gase Motorsports this weekend. And then Hettinger Racing says, we're tired of D&Q, and it ain't going to happen again. So Chandler Smith is joining that organization over there. So excited for Phoenix this weekend. Tune in. We got O'Reilly on Saturday night, pretty late, 7:30 Eastern start, I believe. Then we got the Cup Series on Sunday, IndyCar on Saturday as well. We got ARCA on Thursday, per brain sources. So it's going to be a fun time this weekend. Thanks to everybody in the chat who tuned in. Thanks to everybody in Motor Stardom who followed along. 41,000 this week. Awesome milestone to celebrate. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, as always. Any last words, Mason? All right, we'll see you next week. Bye.